What's good, y'all? First off, I want to thank you guys for 5,000 subscribers. I've really been grinding trying to get these new videos to you guys. So dope to see so much love and support. In today's video, I'm going to be going over some Procreate tips and tricks that I use every day in my personal workflow to help me design using my supply pack and Procreate for iPad. So be sure to follow along. Let's jump right into it. So if you're a beginner or you're just getting started with Procreate, I would definitely recommend finding some kind of brush pack or templates that you can use to kind of get you started on that process, that journey. I personally have my brush pack available. You can find it at the link in my bio. I'm just gonna pull out a hat mockup for now, just kind of demonstrate like how easy it is to get started. So with a couple quick clicks, we have our hat mockup down now, and we're gonna go ahead and drag in some color to it, some red, just kind of go for like a Braves kind of vibe. Just like that, already on our way to our first kind of design. Drawing out everything is hard enough. I think, you know, when you're first starting out, you wanna make things as easy on yourself as possible so you can really learn these different processes, everything. Any kind of brush packs, I think they definitely help. That's what I used originally to kind of help me get started on my way. I think that helped me 1,000%. So that's why I wanted to make my own kind of brush pack to really help people on their own personal design journeys get a jump start, you know, see where that can take them. So like I said, there's hundreds of different options, things for you to play around with, you know, the combos of anything that you can kind of create. There's better things to worry about than trying to draw out every single mock-up to the perfection or anything like that. Like I said, I have these mock-ups more available on my website at quatrasupply.com. So if you guys are interested, I would definitely say check that out. So another thing that I like to do is when I have a garment that is a color, I'm trying to figure out what color I want to make the piece. Something you can do is go to the adjustments up here. You will see the first option is hue, saturation, and brightness. So we're gonna click on that. So once we have this menu pulled up, we'll start here at the brightness. Obviously, when you go brighter, it adds more white to our color, all the way up until it goes completely white. As you decrease, it'll go flat black. That's what the brightness would do. And then we have our saturation here. So the saturation can take away some of that color, or it can really make it pop from like a hot pink fuchsia vibe to a very deep fall kind of reddish color. Then we have our hue here, of course. So the hue is where it really gets fun. This is where like the base kind of sets. So if we wanted to change this to like an orange or a brownish color, we could do something like that. Also, there's greens, you know, every color that you can kind of mix and match. From here is when you kind of, you know, add certain things. You can push, you can pull, you can really dial in some specific colors without damaging your design. Really kind of see what looks best for your specific design. Get some nice yellows. It might be a little bit harder to specifically find this out of the color wheel, but these settings just kind of help you, like I said, dial in those specific colors that you're trying to get. So this is one of my favorite tools as well, especially when it comes to like building out a collection or really just trying things out. So to start out here, one of my favorite Procreate tips is the drawing guide section. So we're gonna go to this wrench tool up here, pull up our actions menu. We'll see here in the canvas settings, we see drawing guides. I'm going to go to edit drawing guide. We see here there's a bunch of different options. There's the 2D grid, isometric, perspective, symmetry. Right now we're going to be looking at the symmetry grid. So we see here it kind of puts a split in it. I'll show you guys what that split does in a second. So we can just up some of these settings here. You can also change the color up here, but I think we'll just leave it at like a pinkish color for now. Then what we can do is create a new layer. We're gonna find a mock-up to go ahead drop down. So we can just do something pretty basic right now. Start off with the T front. We're just going to tap once onto our screen. Then we're gonna press this arrow here. We see, if we zoom in, that there's this blue dot and this green dot. Here is our symmetry line, this pink line that we had set. So what we want to do is make sure we're on our uniform transform tool. We're just gonna drag this to the center of our screen. And we wanna get in really close, really make sure that that blue, green line are lined up with the pink, as close as you can possibly get it. I like to be pretty precise with this just because it makes things a lot easier on the back end. So once we have that, our design is now centered. So once we have that to a nice size, what we can do is create a new layer. On this layer, we're gonna tap onto it one time. We can rename this our design for now. So we have our outline, that first kind of layer that we made. We have our design layer. We're gonna tap on a design layer, set it to drawing assist. So what this will do is anything we do on one side will copy onto the other side of the design. This comes in very in my personal process. Like I said, this is one of my favorite tools to use. So generally that's how we set up drawing guides. I'll show you guys in a couple of the other tips how I like to utilize this in other ways as well. So here we have a hoodie. It looks pretty good, but what we want to do now is add in some shadows. So we're going to go create a new layer. We're going to rename this, call it our shadows layer. And once we have that, we're going to go to our brushes panel. We're going to go to brushes here. I'm going to go to the acid wash one brush. I'm select that. Make sure our color is selected to black. We want to make sure it's selected to clipping mask so that it's connected to our garment. Then from there, we can, on our drawing assist, now what we're gonna do is just start filling in some of these places where some of the shadows might be. So we're just gonna start kind of coloring in this area here, up along these sleeves some as well. It's gonna be a little heavy with it at first because you can always go back, erase some. So I like to start out with some big, strong kind of shadows just to really emphasize certain points. I'm gonna color in this entire section under the hood here as well. And then we can go to our opacity. We can turn this down some. I'll leave it at about 55. So as we see here, that's creating some really nice contrast off of our design. Then you can go through, soften it up some as well. I'm just gonna go touch up a couple points, erase a little bit more. And I'm also using the acid wash brush as the eraser as well. Adding in these shadows just really emphasizes certain points in certain areas of your design. It looks a lot more intentional as well. So I really like to go through and take my time with the shadows and putting them in places that make sense. But yeah, so I think that looks pretty good for our shadows. So we have some baggy shorts here. We already have some texture, some shadows on and everything. But what we want to do is add a little bit of distressing to the bottom of them here, just to really sell that weathered kind of effect that we already have going on. So what we want to do is create a new layer. We're going to go to our brushes again. We're going to go to the dry ink brush. Also, this is when we want to make sure that our drawing assist is set up. So we see here, I have this vertical line down the middle. Anytime you see that, that is exactly what's going on. That's kind of the, the program. It's not always necessary, but when doing things like this, it's very helpful for sure. So again, just kind of demonstrating what it does. Anything on the left side copies onto our right side. So we want to get a good size, probably around like 3. What we want to do is just kind of go down to the bottom of our design here. We're going to start drawing like some waves on it. So any kind of waves is fine, depending on the amount of distressing that you want. That'll kind of show from the shape that you're creating. Tone this up, you can tone it down. There's a lot of other places that you could add some of that distressing. You could add some up above the waist. I think for these, just kind of leaving at the bottom, you really get that effect. It sells the point. Very nice. So yeah, that's usually how I add in my distressing on any kind of garments like this that I think it can add to it. But I think that little bit of distressing really sells the effect a lot. Like I said, that's kind of when I approach these mock-ups designs. That's what I'm looking to do, is kind of see how I can make this look as realistic as possible without overdoing it, of course. I feel like this is kind of like that happy medium that I think looks pretty nice. So another quick tip. So obviously here we have this tan kind of long sleeve sweater pulled up. What we want to do now is add in the texture. So I already have this texture that I created, so I'm just gonna go ahead and paste it. That texture is this camo texture here. I actually made another YouTube video about that, so check that out if you guys are interested. But I'm going to now take this texture, I'm gonna drag it into my layers. It's under my texture, my shadows layer. So now from here, what you can do is you can kind of go through and play with some of these other effects if you choose to, kind of see what looks good. I think I'm just gonna leave it at normal for now. I'm also gonna punch up these shadows some so it looks a little bit more realistic. I'm gonna turn the opacity down on this slightly so it looks a little bit more faded in. That's usually how I would go about adding in any kind of pattern. So whether it's polka dots, it would kind of be the same kind of process. I would usually put it underneath my texture and shadow layers just so that pattern gets the same effect as them. Because if we were to put it above, obviously it's covering the shadows and everything and the texture as well. So underneath it really sells, that effect. As we could see here, that's the difference. It's kind of like night day a little bit. So here's kind of that basic garment that we're talking about. It always looks nice, it always looks fine, but we can always make it look a little bit better. Those little adjustments, additions really add to it a lot. So now what I want to do is go through and use some of these tips, principles that I just kind of went over, speed run a design really quick. So first we're going to set up a drawing guide. Again, go to our symmetry, make sure everything is set, get our colors right. We're just going to find our mock-up. So we're going to go with the vintage sweatshirt front brush, and we're just going to drop that one time. We're going to line that up with that pink line in the middle as close as we can, just so everything stays on track. So now we have this. What we want to do is rename this layer our outline layer, and then let's duplicate it. So after we duplicate it, let's go ahead and lock that top one down. We're going to create a new layer. On this new layer, let's do let's find a nice brown color. So we have like a teddy bear kind of brown here. We can call this our color layer. We're gonna drop this color layer underneath our outline layer. So second layer, let's drop that. We're gonna combine these two. And we wanna go to our selection up here, automatic selection, tap outside of our mockup. So on the outer rings, not inside of it. So tap one time. As you see, it changed the color. So we're gonna take that now and drag that off of our screen. So now that leaves us with an outline layer and our color layer. So now we add a new layer. We're gonna rename this our texture. So let's go up here. We're gonna select a slightly lighter color this time. Again, going to Quatro's brushes, finding the rough wash brush. We're gonna set this one to drawing assist. Also clipping mask. So now that means that it's both going to stay in our bounds of our mockup. Also, it's going to duplicate what we're doing onto both sides. So I'm gonna decrease this color a little bit, and we're just gonna go through lightly, color over this kind of like that, just kind of getting in a nice little wash going here. Just start adding in a little bit of the detail. Now what we can do is add another layer, rename this one shadows, create a clipping. We can add that to the clipping mask chain that we're creating here. We're gonna go to our Quadros brushes, acid wash one brush, black, color selected. We're just gonna go through. Also make sure our drawing assist is on. Now we're just gonna go through around some of these edges, start coloring it in. I'm gonna decrease the opacity again to about 50%. Just kind of going around here, kind of carving out some of these 3D shapes to where everything looks pretty kind of realistic. I think that looks pretty nice so far. This pink line here is a little distracting, so we can go edit our drawing guide. Just drop that opacity some so it's not as distracting now that we have everything kind of set on it. So we have our shadows, our texture, our color layer. So from here, what we can do is now we can do is go through and add some of that distressing. So let's call this our distressing layer. This one does not need to be set to clipping mask, but it does need to be set to our drawing assist. So that allows us to copy paste on both sides again. So let's decrease our sizing. We can kind of approach this, any way that you want to. I think I'm gonna start kind of like a little sideways, just kind of start drawing in. I'm gonna go a little bit lighter with this distressing this time because we really overdid it the first time. So we have some distressing there. We can add some slight distressing on the sleeves as well. So now we have our distressing layer, our shadows layer, our texture layer, our color layer. Generally, this is kind of how I lay out my layers. So it usually goes, through these kind of steps here. So now what I want to do is add in some text. So I have this font here called Violetta. We could just type out Quattro here. Let's change the color of this as well, maybe to a white color. We could just go Quattro somewhere like there. So that's kind of how I would approach, kind of utilizing some of these Procreate tips and tricks, in your personal workflows. I would say add to it, take away from it, whatever you think can make your personal workflow as efficient as possible while remaining creative. My way is not the law or anything like that, but I would definitely say pull from any places you can. Find some nice resources, find some nice mock-ups, some nice references, whatever it may be, to really help you get in that kind of design bag is what I would recommend doing. And yeah, if you liked the video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. The supply pack and other products of mine are available on my site now at quattrosupply.com, so be sure to check those out. There's also a lot we didn't get to go over today, so make sure to leave a comment of what you want to see more of, and I got you with that. And I'll see you on the next one. Peace.